If you don't feel the energy in your body change within 15 seconds, you can close this video. Science already knows what Thoth wrote millennia ago. Your reality is a direct reflection of who you believe yourself to be, and I'm going to prove it to you now. Stop what you're doing. Close your eyes for a moment. Instead of thinking I am a body, feel the following truth. I am the space where my body exists. Just feel it. Notice the sensation of expansion, the lightness that arises when you shift your identity from object to consciousness. There you go. You've just changed your frequency. The universe doesn't respond to your desires. It responds to this frequency. This is the first surrender. You felt the difference between matter and energy firsthand. Now that you've felt the power of this, I'm going to show you why 99% of people fail to sustain this change, trapped in an invisible mental trap. Later, I'll give you the Thoth command, a one-sentence statement that instantly anchors this energy frequency in your body. And only at the end, when your system is ready, will I reveal the final secret of the Emerald Tablet, how to make this reality transformation permanent. If you feel you're ready for this change, comment below. I am consciousness in motion. Stay with me because without the complete sequence, the effect dissipates in minutes. Let's begin. What if I told you that this moment is not a coincidence? That the fact that you are hearing this now was not a twist of fate or a simple click of an algorithm. It was an act of resonance. Think of it as an invisible tuning fork vibrating at the center of your being. For a long time, it was silent, muffled by the noise of the world and the incessant chatter of your own mind. But something recently made it vibrate. And this vibration, this unique frequency that is your essence, traveled through the field of existence and attracted this message directly to you, like a magnet. This encounter was orchestrated not by your logical mind, but by a deeper intelligence that resides within you. I'm not speaking to your analytical mind, the one that might be trying to categorize, doubt, or fit this into some drawer of prior knowledge right now. That mind is a tool, but it's not who you are. I'm speaking directly to that part of you that existed before you had a name, before you had a story, long before you learned to identify with your reflection in the mirror. I'm speaking to the pure consciousness that animates your body, the silent energy that observes the world through your eyes. This essence has been patiently waiting, in a state of pure potential, for this exact moment of recognition. The fact that your attention has landed here, at this precise moment, is irrefutable proof that you are ready. Ready to remember a truth that your soul has always known, but that your mind has been conditioned to forget. The truth is simple, but it shakes the foundations of everything you believe. You are not a physical body that possesses an energy field. You are an energy field that, for a brief cosmic period, manifests and experiences reality through a physical body. You are not the clothes, you are the wearer. You are not the car, you are the driver. Allow this idea to be more than just an intellectual concept. Let it descend from your head into your body. Feel it. What happens in your system? In your sensations? Right now? When you consider that the fundamental basis of who you are might be the complete opposite of what society, science, and even your family have taught you. Feel the small spark of curiosity. Perhaps a slight shiver or a sensation of space opening up in your chest. That's the first sign. It's your inner energy recognizing a truth that resonates with your own nature. This feeling is the beginning of the crumbling of an illusion. The illusion of separation, of solidity, of limitation. Throughout your life, you have been taught to see yourself as a separate entity, a self within a body, navigating a world outside. But this perception is the source of all suffering, all fear, and all feelings of striving. The journey we are beginning now is the deconstruction of this fundamental lie. It is an invitation to shift your identity from object to energy, from effect to cause. The great transformation of reality that the title promises doesn't happen through effort or complex techniques. It happens through a simple, yet profound, change in self-perception. When you change who you believe yourself to be, the rules of the game of reality change with you. You stop being a piece on the board and begin to realize that you are the player yourself. The illusion that has defined your entire life is about to be challenged in a way that you can no longer ignore. And it all begins when we question the nature of what you are most certain of, the solidity of the world around you. If you think the chair you're sitting in or the ground beneath your feet is solid, prepare yourself. The biggest and most convincing lie you've ever been told is about to be exposed. And this revelation is the first step in dismantling your prison. This question about what is real leads us directly to the greatest and most convincing illusion that humanity has ever accepted: the lie of solidity. From your first day of life, you have been programmed to blindly believe what your five senses tell you. Look at your hand now. It feels dense, solid, contained within clear boundaries. Touch the table, the wall, the device on which you are reading this. Everything feels solid, separate, real. This perception is the basis of all your experience of the world. But modern science, specifically quantum physics, revealed more than a century ago an absolutely shocking and counterintuitive truth that destroys this perception. The truth, confirmed in the laboratory, is that 99.99999% of everything you call matter, including your own body, is actually empty space. What you perceive as solidity is a sensory illusion, an interpretation by your brain. It's just pure energy, subatomic particles vibrating at such an incredibly fast frequency that they create the appearance of form and density to our limited senses. It's like the blades of a fan spinning at high speed. They look like a solid, impenetrable disk, but are mostly empty space. The physical universe works in exactly the same way. It's a symphony of vibrations. Think about your body, which seems so concrete and permanent. It is, in fact, a river of energy in constant motion. It's a dynamic pattern of trillions of atoms in continuous flux, completely exchanging with the environment every few years. The cells of your skin, your stomach, even your bones are constantly being replaced. You are not the same collection of atoms you were 7 years ago. So, if matter is always changing, what has remained? What maintains the pattern, the form you call yourself? The answer lies not in matter, but in the information that organizes it. The only reason your hand doesn't pass through the table isn't because both are solid. It's because the electromagnetic force fields of your atoms violently repel the force fields of the table's atoms. What you feel as touch or solidity is actually the repulsion between invisible energy fields. You've never touched anything in your entire life. There has only been the interaction between your energy field and the energy field of another object. Solidity is a sensation, not a fundamental property of reality. This understanding leads us to an even deeper conclusion. The separation you perceive between yourself and the world is the greatest of all mirages. At the most fundamental level of existence, at the quantum level, everything is deeply intertwined. The phenomenon of quantum entanglement, which Einstein called spooky action at a distance, proves that two particles that have interacted once remain connected forever, no matter the distance. What happens to one affects the other instantly. This shows that, at a deeper level, there is no separation. Everything is an uninterrupted and interconnected dance of a single, vast field of energy. You're not separate from the air you breathe, the sunlight that touches your skin, or the people you interact with. You are a temporary ripple in this cosmic ocean of energy, inseparable from it. The idea of an isolated self, an island of existence, is a fiction created by the mind to navigate the three-dimensional world. But this fiction comes at a very high cost, for it is the origin of all the feelings of loneliness and isolation that haunt humanity. Understanding this is not just a fascinating intellectual exercise. It is the first practical step toward freeing yourself from the prison of matter. For as long as you identify with your body as a solid and separate thing, you inherit all its apparent limitations: illness, aging, vulnerability, and death. You become a victim of circumstances, a fragile object in a world perceived as dangerous. Identification with matter is the root of all fear and all anxiety. When you see yourself as matter, you live in a universe of finite resources, competition, and scarcity. You need to fight to survive, to protect your small territory. But when you begin to see yourself as energy, you realize that your source is infinite. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. You are not a battery that runs out. You are a channel through which the unlimited energy of the universe flows. Scarcity is an illusion of material identity. This shift in perception, from seeing yourself as an object to seeing yourself as a flow, is the master key. It changes your relationship with everything, with your body, with your health, with your relationships, with your purpose. You stop trying to control the world from the outside and begin to influence it from within, through your own vibration. You stop being a pawn in the game of life and begin to understand the rules that govern the board itself. But if you are not the body, if the body is merely a pattern of energy, and if solidity is an illusion, an inevitable and powerful question arises in our minds. A question that takes us to the next level of depth in this investigation. If everything I see, touch, and feel, including my own body, is just a dance of energy in empty space, then who or what exactly is aware of all this? Who is the silent witness behind your eyes observing this grand illusion unfold? This question, who is observing, is the key that unlocks the next door of perception. If the physical world is an illusion of solidity, then who is the entity witnessing this illusion? Pause now, just for a moment. Stop reading and simply notice that you are aware. You are aware of these words on your screen. You are aware of your sitting body, of your breath going in and out. You are aware of the sounds around you, the temperature of the air. Now, ask yourself seriously, where is this awareness? Where is this perception that is aware of all this experience? The immediate answer of the conditioned mind is to point to the head, to somewhere behind the eyes. But that answer is merely a mental habit. If the world's most advanced neuroscientists were to open your brain with the most sophisticated technology, they wouldn't find a self or a consciousness. They would find an incredibly complex organ with neurons, synapses, electrical activity, and chemical reactions. They would find the mechanisms of thought, but not the thinker. They would see the processes of perception, but not the perceiver. Consciousness is not an object that can be found. It has no form, no color, no location. You can't put it under a microscope because it is what is looking through the microscope. Ancient wisdom traditions, such as the Advaita Vedanta philosophy of India, have known this for millennia. They taught a radical truth that modern science is only beginning to scratch the surface of. Consciousness is not something the brain produces. The brain does not create consciousness, just as a radio does not create the music it plays. The brain is a receiver, a decoder, a biological antenna that tunes into and expresses a field of consciousness that already exists. The brain is a complex object that appears within consciousness, not the other way around. Think of it this way. You are not the body you are aware of. You are the consciousness in which the experience of the body appears as a collection of sensations, images, and thoughts. You are not the cloud passing in the sky. You are the sky itself, the vast and open space in which all clouds, of all kinds, arise and disappear. This is the discovery of the hidden observer, the silent witness. It is the part of you that is reading these words, but which is not the words. It is the part that feels, but is not the feeling. It is the presence that simply is. This silent witness is the only thing in all your experience that never changes. Your thoughts change every second. Your emotions come and go like the weather. Your body constantly changes, aging and renewing itself. The world around you is in a state of perpetual flux, but the consciousness that is aware of all this change, this silent and formless presence, is the same today as it was when you were 5 years old. It is the still backdrop against which the film of your life unfolds. Recognizing yourself as this presence is the beginning of true freedom. It is the most radical identity shift a human being can make. The shift from the thing that is seen to the space that sees. You are the space where everything happens, not the things that happen within it. To feel this, even for a brief moment, is to liberate yourself from the tyranny of matter and time. When you identify with thoughts and emotions, you are tossed to and fro by the storm of life. But when you recognize yourself as the silent space in which the storm occurs, you find a peace that cannot be shaken by any external circumstance. This peace is not an emotion. Emotions are fleeting. This peace is your very nature. It is the stillness that is always present beneath the noise of the mind. You realize that your essence is not physical, not limited, not vulnerable. Your essence is a field of infinite potential, the source from which all things arise. It is the 0 point, the quantum vacuum, the silence from which all sound is created. To live from this place is to live from a place of absolute power and serenity. This realization is not a mental exercise or philosophical gymnastics. It is a fundamental shift in identity, in who you think you are at the deepest level. It is the awakening to the truth that your essential nature is not a thing, but the absence of thing, the pure potential from which all things manifest. And this wisdom, this science of consciousness, is not a new age invention or a passing fad. It echoes through the ages, whispered by masters and sages who mapped the geography of the soul. They recorded their secrets in codes, in sacred texts and in mysterious symbols, so that those who were ready could decipher them. And this discovery that consciousness is the source of everything, and not a product of the brain, was guarded by a legendary figure, a master of reality who understood the universe not as matter, but as a vibrational code emitted and controlled by the mind itself. This figure is key to understanding how this silent consciousness can actively shape the world we call real. This mysterious figure, who understood reality as a code, takes us directly to ancient Egypt, millennia before quantum physics was even imagined. There, an enigmatic entity known as Thoth, the ibis-headed scribe of the gods, had already mapped the deepest secrets of consciousness and energy. Thoth was not just a mythological god. He represented a body of knowledge, an ancestral wisdom that affirmed that the universe is not material in its essence. He taught that the universe is mental. In his legendary texts, such as the famous Emerald Tablet, Thoth left a code for future generations. One of his most famous phrases, "as above, so below, as above, so below," was not merely a poetic saying. It was a formula describing the relationship between consciousness and matter. It meant that your outer world, below, is a direct reflection of your inner world, above. The reality you experience is a mirror of your own consciousness. Thoth understood that matter was merely a manifestation of more subtle energy patterns, and that these patterns were ultimately controlled and shaped by consciousness. He knew that thought, word, and vibration were the tools with which reality was created. The universe, according to him, was sung into existence. This may sound like a myth, but it is precisely what modern quantum physics is beginning to suggest, that the consciousness of the observer influences the observed reality. And this same wisdom was not limited to Egypt. It permeates countless ancient cultures around the world, as if they had all drunk from the same source of knowledge. In India, the ancient rishis spoke of prana, the intelligent life force that flows through everything, animating the cosmos. In China, Taoist masters dedicated their lives to cultivating qi, the energy that composes both the human body and the universe. In Japan, this same force is called qi, in Tibet, lung. Different names for the same fundamental truth. Our ancestors didn't need electron microscopes or particle accelerators to know that the body is not just a piece of flesh. They experienced it as a sophisticated biocomputer, a resonant energy field that constantly interacts with the energy field of the universe. They knew that by aligning their own consciousness with this universal flow of energy, they could accomplish feats that our modern minds, trapped in the materialistic paradigm, would call impossible or miraculous. This forgotten wisdom is now resurfacing in full force, not as a myth of the past, but as a practical science of the soul. It offers us a map, an instruction manual for personal transformation that begins at the most fundamental level of all, the biology of our own identity. It explains, clearly and directly, how your sense of who you are is, at this very moment, sending orders to each of the trillions of cells in your body. Understanding how these orders are sent and received is what allows us, for the first time, to consciously take control of our own biological processes. This ancient wisdom of Thoth, which tells us that reality is a reflection of consciousness, is not an abstract philosophy. It has direct physical and biological consequences here and now. Your body is not a stupid, pre-programmed genetic machine, doomed to follow a script written in its DNA. It is a living, intelligent, and listening organism. Each of its trillions of cells is like a miniature antenna, covered in receptors that are constantly picking up signals from the environment to know how to behave. And what is the closest, most influential, and most powerful environment for your cells? It's not the air you breathe or the food you eat. It's the energy generated by your own consciousness. Your thoughts, your emotions, and most importantly, your fundamental sense of self, are constantly emitting a field of information that your cells receive and respond to every second of every day. The modern science of epigenetics, popularized by visionary biologists like Bruce Lipton, proves this conclusively. Epigenetics shows us that it is the perception of the environment, and not genetic inheritance, that controls the activity of your genes. And your most fundamental perception is the perception of yourself. When you identify yourself as a purely material being, a fragile, separate, and vulnerable physical body, subject to disease, aging, and accidents, your cells receive this message. They receive the vibrational command of limitation. As a result, they organize themselves around survival, defense, and the preservation of existing patterns. Change becomes slow, difficult, and requires enormous effort. However, the moment you begin to recognize yourself for what you truly are, a flowing energy field, a consciousness in motion, the instructions change. The orders sent to your cells are different. And this change doesn't happen through willpower or positive thinking. Trying to convince yourself of something you don't believe in only generates more internal conflict. The change happens as a physical and natural consequence of the reorganization of your identity. When you change who you believe yourself to be, your vibration changes, and your cells respond to this new vibration. Disease patterns that seemed fixed and chronic begin to become malleable. Physical limitations that seemed permanent reveal themselves as energetic habits that can be reconfigured. This is not magic. It is the physics of how identity shapes biology. Consciousness is not a ghost in the machine. It is the engineer of the machine. It is the fundamental organizing force that tells your genes what to do, that tells your cells how to organize themselves, that tells your body how to function. And the moment that consciousness, which is you, recognizes its own limitless and fluid nature, something extraordinary begins to happen. The rigid boundary that your mind has always built between the self and the world, between your body and what is outside of it, begins to dissolve. This shift in internal command not only transforms your biology, but also leads to a direct experience that challenges everything you believed about the boundaries between you and the universe. This experience is the turning point, the moment when theory becomes lived reality, the day when the boundary that defines your existence simply disappears. This shift in internal command, from matter to energy, is not just an idea. It leads to a real experience, a moment that, once lived, changes everything forever. There was a moment in my own journey, unseen, unforced, but which simply happened as an act of grace. Sitting in silence, consciousness began to deepen, moving beyond the superficial layer of thoughts, beyond the waves of emotions, plunging into the silent substratum that sustains all existence. It was like diving into a deep, calm ocean, beneath the turbulent surface. In that depth, the structure I had always called myself collapsed. There was no separate self, no body, no personal history. There was only energy, a living, pulsating, vibrant energy that was continuous with everything around it. The perception of the physical body did not disappear, but the boundary, the line I had always felt, separated my body from the air in the room or the chair, simply dissolved. The distinction between what was me and what was not, me lost all meaning. I could feel the shape of my body in the same way I felt the texture of the chair, the sounds coming through the window, the light touching my skin. Everything was one and the same thing, a single energy field manifesting in different frequencies and patterns. And I wasn't the body. I was that entire field, that unified consciousness that was temporarily expressing itself in that particular form. From that particular perspective, the wave realized it was the ocean, this direct experience, which may have lasted only a few minutes on the clock before the startled thinking mind reconstructed the familiar sensation of separation, changed everything. It was no longer a belief, a visualization, or a positive affirmation. It was a visceral, undeniable recognition of my true nature. It was like waking from a lifelong dream. From that instant, the body, like a faithful mirror of this new perception, began to transform. A health condition considered chronic by medicine began to heal itself in ways that defied logical explanation. This happens because the consciousness operating the body no longer identified with density, limitation, and fixed material form. It had experienced unity, fluidity, and infinite potential. And the body, like a loyal servant, began to reflect this new truth in its own biological structure. The deepest healing is not an adjustment of matter, but a return to our energetic essence. This direct experience, this glimpse of unity, reveals a shocking truth. Your body possesses its own intelligence, a wisdom that your rational mind, with all its logic, completely ignores. It has always known the truth about who you are. It has never forgotten. And it has been trying to communicate this wisdom to you every day of your life, through a language you have been taught not to listen to. And learning to decipher this body language is the ultimate secret to anchoring this transformation and living permanently in the flow of energy. This experience of unity reveals the most important truth of all. Your mind may doubt, it may analyze, it may resist, but your body already knows all of this. It always has. It has never forgotten its true energetic nature. Every shiver that runs down your spine when you hear a profound truth or see an act of beauty is your body shouting, "Yes, that's it." It is your body's energy resonating with the energy of truth. It's not an emotional reaction. It's a physical recognition. Every time you sensed someone's presence in a room before even looking, it was your energy field reading the other person's energy field. Every hunch about a situation that proved correct was your bodily intelligence, your somatic intelligence, accessing information directly from the quantum field, without the need for the slow, linear logic of the mind. Your body is the most sophisticated energy reading instrument in the universe, far more advanced than any technology we have ever developed. He is able to detect subtle electromagnetic fields, vibrations, intentions, and information that travels faster than light. He senses the effects of quantum entanglement, which his rational mind dismisses as mere coincidence or luck. We have been taught since childhood to trust analysis and ignore intuition. We have been conditioned to believe the story the mind tells about reality, instead of feeling reality directly through the body. Children know this instinctively. Before they are programmed, they experience themselves as fluid, magical, limitless energy, connected to everything. They live in a world of wonder, where everything is possible. It is only through social and educational conditioning that they learn to condense, to solidify into the identity of a separate and limited body. But even then, the body never completely forgets. Energy never ceases to be energy. It is merely covered by layers upon layers of beliefs and tensions. Trusting the wisdom of your body is the way back home. It's the path to the direct realization that the separation you think is not the separation you feel. It's an invitation to stop living only from the head up and start inhabiting your whole body. It's learning to listen to the whispers of your soul through the language of bodily sensations. Your body is patiently at every moment, showing you the way beyond illusion. It shows you where energy is blocked through pain and tension. It shows you where energy is flowing through pleasure and vitality. It is your personal treasure map, your infallible guide back to your essence. And listening to this guide, trusting it above the voice of fear and doubt in the mind, is what finally allows you to dissolve the only thing that prevents you from living in a permanent state of flow and power. And that one thing, the root of all effort and suffering, is the invisible force of resistance. That secret your body has never forgotten, the wisdom it tries to communicate to you every day, is the key to dissolving the resistance that defines your life. Think about the frustration, the effort, that feeling of always swimming against the current. Where does it come from? It's not from external circumstances. It's not from your boss, the traffic, or the lack of money. Resistance is a physical phenomenon, a direct consequence of believing you are a solid object separate from the rest of the world. When you see yourself as a dense form, a contained body, life becomes a series of collisions. People, events, and problems hit you, and your only response is to contract, defend yourself, resist. It's a constant battle that drains your energy and keeps you stuck in the same place. But what happens when you begin to recognize yourself as energy? The fundamental dynamics of your existence change completely. You cease to be an isolated object against which life happens, and realize that you are continuous with the same energy field that is generating all circumstances. Challenges don't magically disappear, but your relationship with them transforms. Instead of a solid obstacle encountering solid resistance, which generates friction and pain, you become like water. Water doesn't fight against the rock, it simply flows around it, not through effort, but by its own fluid nature. The absence of density is what creates the absence of impact. You begin to experience reality not as something that happens to you, but as the very energy field moving through you. Every situation, every person, every challenge is just a ripple in this field of which you are a part. The struggle ceases because there is nothing left to fight against. You are no longer in opposition to the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself from a particular perspective. This shift in perception is not a mental technique. It is a change in your existential physics. It is the end of the war against reality, because you realize you have always been on the same side. This fluidity begins to manifest in all areas. Discussions that once drove you crazy now lose their power. Problems that seemed insurmountable reveal unexpected solutions. You stop forcing results and begin to allow them to unfold. Life ceases to be a series of pushes and pulls and becomes a dance. You learn to move with the rhythm of the universe instead of trying to impose your own. The chronic tension in your shoulders begins to dissipate. The constant worry in your mind begins to quiet down. You are learning the language of energy, which is the language of flow. And this new relationship with space, this ability to move through circumstances without resistance, unlocks something even deeper. It breaks the chains of the most tyrannical dimension of all, the one that keeps us trapped in stories of pain and anxiety. This shift in perception about who you are, from matter to energy, is the key to finally escaping the prison of time. By identifying with matter, with a physical body, you automatically inherit the prison of linear time. The past becomes a heavy anchor, defining who you are through memories, traumas, and conditioning. You believe you are the result of everything that has happened. At the same time, the future becomes an endless source of anxiety, a screen where you project fears, worries, and expectations. Trapped between a past you cannot change and a future you cannot control, the present becomes merely a fragile and fleeting bridge, an instant you can barely perceive before your mind drags you back to what has already been or to what is not yet. This is the standard experience of human consciousness, but it is not the truth of existence. Energy doesn't live in time in that way. At the quantum level, reality operates non-locally, where everything is instantaneously interconnected, regardless of space or time. Past, present, and future are not points on a straight line, but a unified field of potentialities that all exist simultaneously, now. When you recognize yourself as energy, you don't lose the ability to use a clock or schedule an appointment. What you lose is the identity of being a prisoner of time. You stop being a victim of your own history. Past patterns that seem set in stone in your personality reveal themselves for what they truly are. Energetic configurations that are being kept active in the present. And if they are active now, they can be changed now. The pain of an old trauma is not in the past. It is a vibration that you continue to recreate in your energy field every moment. By bringing your awareness to the present moment, you stop feeding that pattern, and it begins to dissolve. Freedom is not in forgetting the past, but in realizing that it has no power over you, in the only moment that exists, the now. Similarly, future possibilities that seemed distant or impossible become potential presents. Instead of waiting for something to happen, you begin to energetically align yourself with the reality you desire. In the present moment, you feel the emotion of that reality now. You vibrate at the frequency of that possibility now. This is why spontaneous healings and sudden life changes happen, defying all linear logic. It's not because the person has learned to manipulate reality, but because they have stopped seeing themselves as a fixed point in time and have begun to feel themselves as a field of consciousness that exists in the eternal now. It is from this point of power, the present moment, that the universe receives its new orders. When you stop identifying with the limitations of the past and the anxieties of the future, you become a pure channel for the creative energy of the universe. You access the field where all possibilities coexist, and your consciousness, focused on the now, acts as the catalyst that collapses one of these possibilities into your physical experience. You stop trying to fix your life and begin to create it in every instant. And the universe, which has always been waiting for your command, begins to respond in ways you never imagined possible. The exact moment you genuinely recognize yourself as energy, the reality around you begins to reorganize itself immediately. This isn't a promise for the future. It's a law of physics. Reality isn't a fixed objective stage where you're just an actor. It's the quantum field, a sea of infinite potentialities, collapsing into specific experiences based on the observer's frequency. And the determining factor isn't what you think or what you want, but the fundamental identity from which you observe. It's who you believe yourself to be at the deepest level that commands matter to organize itself. When you see yourself as a material being, separate and limited, the laws of physics seem rigid. Change requires enormous effort and takes time. You need to fight, work hard, manipulate the pieces on the chessboard of life to get what you want. But when you change your identity and see yourself as consciousness in motion, as a fluid energy field, the very frame of reference of reality changes with you. The rules of the game change because you realize you're not playing a game. You are the game itself. Opportunities that were completely invisible to you before suddenly become obvious. Solutions to problems that seemed impossible simply appear in your consciousness. Change can happen instantly because you are no longer trying to rearrange solid matter with your hands, which is slow and tiring. Instead, you are allowing energy, which is the basis of all matter, to reorganize itself into new patterns that correspond to your new frequency. It's like changing the blueprint of a house instead of trying to knock down the walls with a sledgehammer. That's why we hear stories of people who transform their lives overnight. Stagnant financial situations resolve themselves through an unexpected encounter. Relationships that seemed destroyed heal effortlessly through a new understanding. Chronic health problems disappear when the energy that sustained them is released. The skeptical mind, trapped in material identity, will always find a logical explanation to downplay these events, calling them luck, chance, or coincidence. But direct experience tells a completely different story. The truth is that when you change who you believe yourself to be, the universe receives a new blueprint for your reality and begins to build accordingly, without delay. It doesn't judge whether the blueprint is good or bad. It simply executes the vibrational command you are emitting. If you emit the frequency of limitation, it builds a limited reality. If you emit the frequency of fluidity and possibility, it builds a reality that reflects that. And the living proof that this is not just a beautiful theory is all around you, in people who, consciously or unconsciously, already live in this state of flow. You've probably met someone like that. It's not that they're perfect or enlightened in an obvious way, but there's something about their presence that's different. They seem lighter, more fluid, as if they aren't struggling with life the way most people do. They don't seem to carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. These people may never have read a book on quantum physics or spirituality, but somehow they have maintained or rediscovered the recognition of themselves as energy, not as dense matter. They operate from a different operating system. Observe how they navigate challenges. When a problem arises, there's none of that contraction, that solid tension of someone bracing for an impact. They don't resist heavily what's happening. Instead, they flow around obstacles with a grace that defies logic. It's not through forced positive thinking, but through the simple absence of the density that creates friction. They seem to have an unwavering confidence that everything will work out. Not because they expect the best, but because they are not at war with what is. Notice also how circumstances seem to magically arrange themselves around them. The right people appear at the exact moment. The resources they need materialize out of nowhere. Doors open without them having to force them. What most call luck is, in fact, the natural response of the quantum field to the coherence that their energy field transmits. Because they are not emitting the frequency of resistance and struggle, the universe does not need to fight against them. It collaborates. Their physical bodies also reflect this inner state. They appear relaxed, not in a limp or careless way, but in a vibrant manner. It's as if vital energy moves through them instead of being trapped in knots of tension and worry. They are living proof that what we are talking about here is not abstract theory. They are walking demonstrations of what happens naturally when consciousness stops identifying exclusively with material form and remembers its fluid nature. And the most fascinating part is that most of them can't explain how they do it. If you ask, they'll probably say something like, "I just go with the flow," or "I don't worry too much." They're not doing anything special. They're just being what they truly are, energy in motion. And reality responds to this state of being with a constant flow of support and synchronicity. This state of being, this absence of struggle, is what ultimately allows the most paralyzing emotion of all to begin to dissolve on its own. As this self-awareness as energy deepens and stabilizes, your relationship with fear radically transforms. You stop trying to fight fear, overcome it, or manage it. You realize that fear is not an enemy to be conquered. It is simply a product, a direct symptom of the belief that you are a solid, fragile, and separate thing that can be damaged, lost, or destroyed. All the existential fear that colors human experience, from social anxiety to the terror of death, is rooted in identifying with the body as being all that you are. When you see yourself as a vulnerable material form in a vast and indifferent universe, fear is the logical response. You need to protect yourself, defend yourself, worry. But when you begin to experience yourself directly as energy, as the very consciousness that is temporarily focused in this form, but is never limited to it, fear loses its foundation. The base upon which it was built crumbles. How can the wave fear the ocean if it perceives that it is the ocean itself expressing itself in wave form for a moment? You are not a separate thing that can be annihilated. You are the field of existence itself, the totality of life, experiencing itself temporarily through this individual perspective. You are, in your essence, absolutely safe. Your form may change, it may dissolve, but the consciousness that you are, the energy that you are, is eternal and indestructible. It simply changes form. Understanding this is not an intellectual consolation. It is a visceral perception that changes the chemistry of your body. The dissolution of this fundamental anxiety is not a spiritual achievement. It's not something you gain through effort. It's a natural consequence of remembering who you are. It's a return to a state of profound peace that doesn't depend on whether external circumstances are good or bad. This peace emanates from within, from your direct connection to the source of all life. You stop seeking security in the outside world, in money, relationships, or status, because you have found the only true security that exists, your own unchanging nature. And when this fundamental contraction of fear dissolves, something extraordinary happens to your physical system. The energy that was previously spent maintaining the walls of the prison of fear, feeding worry and anxiety, is released. This massive release of vital energy has nowhere to go but to flow through you unimpeded, resulting in an explosion of vitality that you may not have felt since childhood. With the dissolution of the dense identity and the contraction of fear, your physical vitality increases exponentially, without you needing to do anything about it. Chronic fatigue, the exhaustion that most people accept as normal in adult life, begins to disappear. This exhaustion did not come from overwork, but from the constant effort of maintaining a false identity and fighting against reality. The energy that was previously trapped in patterns of contracted matter, intense muscles, and an overloaded nervous system is now released. It flows freely through you, and your body expresses this flow as health, vigor, and a feeling of lightness. The speed at which your intentions manifest in the world accelerates dramatically. And again, it's not because you've learned a better manifestation technique. It's because there's no longer the resistance of matter to be overcome by willpower. You're no longer trying to push a rock uphill. Instead, you're simply allowing the energy, which is infinitely malleable, to rearrange itself into configurations that match the frequency you're emitting. Energy rearranges itself much faster than matter appears to, and the result seems like a miracle to the conditioned mind. Your intuition becomes your primary navigation tool. It becomes clear, precise, and immediate. You begin to receive information directly through energetic resonance, from your field interacting with the larger field. It's a communication from consciousness to consciousness, bypassing the slow and limiting interface of the analytical mind. You simply know what to do, where to go, what to say. You trust these impulses because they come from a place of connection, not fear or calculation. The field speaks directly to the field. You enter a state of alignment where the universe is no longer out there, separate from you. It becomes an extension of you, and you an extension of it. The separation dissolves not just as a concept, but as a lived experience. You feel supported, guided, and cared for, because you realize that the same intelligence that spins the galaxies is the intelligence that pulsates in every cell of your body. To seal this new alliance with your true self, to anchor this perception in your daily reality, there is a declaration, a command you can give yourself to solidify this change. Now, at this moment, pause, take a deep breath, and make this declaration, not to an external force, not to the universe, but to the deepest level of your own consciousness. Say, aloud or silently, with all the intention you can muster, I am not this body. I am the energy that animates it. I am not confined to matter. I am consciousness experiencing itself in form. I now release identification with density and acknowledge my true nature as living, fluid, and limitless energy. Feel what happens when you make this statement. Don't analyze it with your mind. Don't judge it. Just notice what changes, however subtle, in your direct experience of being alive in this moment. Perhaps a relaxation in your shoulders, a feeling of space opening up in your chest, a sudden stillness in your mind. This small opening, this almost imperceptible change, is the first crack in the armor of density that has so long concealed your true nature. It is the first drop of light entering the cave. You don't need to strive to maintain this recognition all the time. Trying to do so would only create a new kind of effort, a new spiritual identity to defend. The work is not to force, but to allow. Once the crack appears, once you have glimpsed, even for a second, what you truly are, that recognition never completely abandons you. It becomes a new point of reference, a silent truth to which you can return whenever the surface of your experience is caught up in the drama and density of everyday life. And each time you return to that recognition, it deepens, it stabilizes, it integrates more fully into your system. What was once a glimpse becomes a feeling, and what was a feeling becomes your natural state of being. You stop visiting the truth and begin to inhabit it. The armor of illusion begins to fall away piece by piece, not because you are breaking it, but because you have stopped believing you need it. And it is in this process that you finally realize the most liberating truth of all. The reality you have always sought is already here. Everything you ever pursued in life, all the searching for happiness, freedom, peace, fluidity, or power, was motivated by a single, deep desire. The desire to feel at home in reality, instead of feeling at war with it. You thought you needed to change your circumstances to feel that way, that you needed more money, the perfect relationship, the ideal job. But external circumstances were never the problem. They were merely a reflection of an internal problem. Your identification with matter, the belief that you are a dense, separate, and vulnerable thing, is the source of all struggle, all resistance, and all exhaustion. It is this identity that generates fear and the feeling of lack. But when you change your identification, when you recognize what you truly are, the freedom you sought outside reveals itself as your natural state, already present, only covered by a layer of conditioning. Reality doesn't need to change for you to experience what you desire. Your recognition of who you are needs to change. And then, like a perfect mirror, reality naturally rearranges itself to reflect this new perception. This is the great secret, hidden in plain sight. It cannot be understood by the mind. It cannot be learned from a book. It can only be recognized experientially, in the silence of your own being. And this recognition is available to you now, at this very moment. The energy that is reading and understanding these words is the same energy that expresses them. You're not in reality. Reality is in you. You're not a drop in the ocean. You're the entire ocean in a drop. Welcome back to what you always were, before they told you a different story. Welcome back to the energy that finally recognizes itself. Everything changes from here. Not because you will do something to change, but because you finally stopped believing in the solidity that made change so difficult. You are remembering now, and reality, like a faithful servant, is already responding. If you've made it this far, you're no longer the same person who started this video. You've felt the change. This proves that you're not just listening, but resonating with this truth. To let me know that you're among those who are awakening, leave the following phrase in the comments. My reality responds to my energy. And if you feel this content has brought you value, and you want to help this channel grow and spread more messages like this, there's a way to contribute directly in the first pinned comment. Any help you can give is very important to me and to the continuation of this work. But understand, just the fact that you've made it to the end is already a huge help. If you can share this video with someone you know is ready to hear this. But don't leave yet. Your journey doesn't end here. I've prepared a special video for you to take the next step, to delve deeper and apply all of this in an even more powerful way. Don't lose momentum. Click on the video that's appearing on your screen now and let's meet there.